Hello there everyone, welcome back to Push Square. My name is Aiden and this is Robert Ramsay's review of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Quick thing before we get started, you see that little black, well pretty big black watermark in the corner there? Yeah, that's because we had to capture this review through PS5 capture. I didn't personally have access for capture through the Elgato, which does mean you're left with this. I don't know why it's enforced, I do apologise for it, but let's just get into the review. Close to 2 decades after its release, beloved PS2 arena fighter Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 definitely butchered that. Anyway, this game has been handed a sequel in all but name. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is a throwback of epic proportions, the kind of all-out, franchise-encompassing brawler that's been sorely missed beyond the Naruto Ninja Storm series. Zero's biggest selling point is undoubtedly its roster, which is suitably gigantic. While the original Dragon Ball has been left behind, maybe it's being saved for DLC. The game covers Dragon Ball Z, GT, every fan favourite Z-era movie, and a huge chunk of Super. The result is a truly spectacular playable roster. You could spend hours just jumping from character to character, gawking at their animations and special attacks. On a surface level, it's a ridiculously good looking release, boasting some of the absolute best anime-infused visuals that you'll find in gaming. Bandai Namco's pumped some serious budget into this one and it shows, especially when ultimate moves are unleashed and the animations are so on point that the source material starts to look inadequate. So Zero's got the roster and it's got the looks, but how does it play? Well, for starters, it feels like a proper arena fighter, like a PS2 title brought forward in time. It's fast-paced, incredibly punchy, and has little regard for balance. Fun is the primary goal here, backed by an unshakable reverence for all things Dragon Ball. To be clear though, Zero isn't just some brain-dead button masher. Much like its predecessor, there's a deceptive level of depth to the game, as you're constantly having to weigh up a wide range of both offensive and defensive techniques. Admittedly, the mechanics are a bit messy. There are at least 3 different types of counters to wrap your head around, for example, but battles are often so frantic that trying to get a read on your opponent's moves can feel impossible. And this is where Zero stumbles a bit, at least initially. While there is a dedicated training mode that walks you through every mechanic, the game does a poor job of telling you why something is actually useful and when you should be using it. Some of the system's most essential techniques are completely glossed over and you're left to try and absorb key information through text boxes. It's far from ideal. The lack of adequate preparation results in a steep learning curve, which will be asking a lot of more casual Dragon Ball enthusiasts. However, if you can power through the immediate roadblocks and at least start to grasp the correct timing of blocks and counters, a world of utterly bombastic combat awaits. Indeed, when Zero clicks, it is quite possibly the most accurate representation of Dragon Ball action ever to be harnessed in the video game format. It's a shame that the system isn't more accessible and better explained, but at the same time, actually getting to grips with the fundamentals and then steadily growing more confident in your own combos and special moves feels amazingly satisfying. Maybe Goku was onto something with all of that training patter. To be fair, there's a boatload of single player stuff to chew on as you learn the ropes too. The game does not skimp on modes, which is always great to see in an era where developers like to push online play. Combined with its colossal character roster, we'd go as far as saying that Zero is good value, even if you're the type of player to avoid online battles entirely. Having said that, the main story mode, known as Episode Battle, can be rather hit or miss. It's broken up between a bunch of key characters, each of them with their own series of fights that cover various Dragon Ball sagas in chronological order. The problem with this format is that huge chunks of the story are completely skipped when your current character isn't directly involved, making for a mode that can feel cobbled together and bafflingly paced. Granted, there are only so many times that a Dragon Ball game can retell the Saiyan saga before it loses all meaning, but just a bit more detail would have gone a long way in making Zero's adaptation feel complete. Needless to say, if you're at all unfamiliar with the source material, episode mode will not make a lick of sense. And it doesn't help that full cutscenes are few and far between, with the game mostly opting for captioned slideshows complete with still images taken from the game. Episode Battle disappoints in terms of presentation then, but it does have some cool ideas that balance things out. For starters, you can unlock what-if scenarios that take the original narrative in crazy new directions, often culminating in really enjoyable, eyebrow-raising clashes. And on top of that, just being able to see events from the perspective of characters like Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, and even Jiren does add some welcome flavour to each saga. When you're done with the episode battle, and you've earned enough in-game currency to unlock most of the roster, there are plenty of other distractions to dive into. World Tournament, which can be played online or offline, is probably our favourite of the bunch, letting you take part in rule-based elimination brackets. You can even make your own custom competitions, toggling elements like time limits, teams, and out-of-bound victories. Speaking of custom content, the suitably named Custom Episode mode could end up being the game's biggest draw for more creative players. Basically, you can create your own combat scenarios, all the way down to character dialogue and even anime-style title cards. The possibilities are endless, and you can share your creations online, effectively giving Zero an infinite supply of fan-curated content. It's an ambitious addition, and although the interface takes some getting used to, being able to direct your own episode of Dragon Ball will be a dream come true for many. Oh, and online, it's fine by the way. A completely unbalanced character roster obviously puts a dampener on any true competitive motivations, but that's never been the thrust of Dragon Ball games outside of Arc System Works' Dragon Ball FighterZ. No rollback netcode does mean that you'll be hit with some rough connections every now and then, but by and large, we found fights to be pretty stable. Frustratingly though, jumping online is probably your best bet when it comes to throwing down with friends. Supposedly due to technical limitations, Zero's local versus offering is limited to just one stage, the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, where there are no destructible buildings and most of the battleground is just white, empty space. It's a damn shame because the inherent hype of Zero's eye-watering fights make it the perfect party game. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is an impressively robust celebration of all things Dragon Ball. It's just about as bombastic as arena fighters get, and while the game could do a much better job of teaching players the ropes, there's a technical depth to combat that makes the learning curve feel incredibly rewarding. Boasting a colossal character roster and some of the best anime-based visuals in gaming, Sparking Zero is an absolute blast. We're giving Dragon Ball Sparking Zero an 8 out of 10. Thanks everyone for watching. Do let me know if you plan to pick this game up down in the comments below, and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more PlayStation video content. Anyway, I appreciate you as always, and until next time, I've been Aaron, and this has been Push Square.